What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be having a discussion around the 5 things that you can expect to hear when you're growing out your hair. And we're also joined by a very special guest today. We've got my friend Joshua. So with that being said, let's hop into it with the very first one. So the first thing that you can expect to hear when you're growing out your hair, plain and simple. Let's start with the most basic one. Get a haircut. I think for a lot of guys, this is probably going to be the first time that they hear this. Men's haircuts now are so much about pristine, so much about polished. And it's not uncommon to go to the barbershop every 2, 3, 4 weeks just to make sure that your fade stays really, really tight. As a result, the minute your hair starts to get a little bit longer, it becomes really, really noticeable to everybody else. And I think for a lot of people, sometimes seeing a guy with grown out sides in his hair can actually be a little bit shocking. And I think really it becomes so noticeable when you get to the awkward phase. Because the awkward phase is when you transition out of having short hair and you get into somewhere between medium and long hair. And there's absolutely nothing worse than during the hair growth phase when you're stuck in between phases. When your hair can't quite go up and your hair also isn't quite long enough or stylish enough to wear down. And it's that point when people will tell you straight away, get a haircut, get to the barbershop, sort it out. But you have to keep going. You can't listen to those types of things. And as I've said in previous videos, the people that say that to you, probably in 2 or 3 months or maybe a little bit further down the line when your hair's out of that awkward phase, will probably turn to you and they'll actually say something like, actually dude, your hair's pretty cool. I actually quite like it.
Yeah, probably one of the most common things that I heard while growing out my hair was, your hair is getting long, when are you gonna get a haircut? And I know sometimes this isn't even a negative comment saying that you look bad with long hair or longer hair. It's just when you're someone like myself who has worn a short, tight fade for so long, having long hair, like Alex said, can almost be like polarizing where it's like, oh wow, like he actually has some long hair. His hair is kind of longer on the sides, maybe on the top, and it can take people back. And so they think, oh, when are you gonna get a haircut? And then you just have those people who really don't like your long hair, which, like Alex said, almost 9 times out of 10, within 6 months to however long it takes to get your hair out of that awkward stage, will turn around and tell you that they actually love your hair and they wish they could have long hair like you. And the second thing that you'll hear while growing out your hair is that you look like this celebrity or any other random person that they may know with long hair. So as you're growing your hair out, this is something you will hear quite often, almost as often as when are you gonna get your hair cut? And that is, you look like XYZ celebrity. Any which celebrity who has long hair or any person that has long hair, whether you actually look like them or not, people will say you look like them. My personal experience with this, the first time it ever happened, was with a celebrity who, when I Googled his name, I was not too happy with the results that came through. I remember thinking, wait, what? And I remember it really took me back thinking like, I don't look anything like this guy, but I mean, I guess we both have medium length long hair. Okay, but it is something you will get. People will associate your hair with whichever celebrity has long hair or someone who they know personally in their friend circle who has long hair.
I think for me, this is personally probably my biggest frustration about growing my hair, just because it is literally something that you hear more than you possibly could imagine that you're going to hear it. Especially doing YouTube as well. You sometimes get people commenting someone random in the comments below that you look like this person. And it's just exactly like you just said. Sometimes you can see a resemblance, but most of the time it's that their hair is a similar color. Maybe their eyes are a slightly similar color, but beyond that, it doesn't really tend to have any resemblance. And I think what this really, really reinforces for me is just the importance of being confident in your identity. And just the importance of really being confident in terms of who you are, and actually just thinking if someone does say that, there's probably a reason why they've said that, but the reason is not going to be anything like that you actually do look more than very slightly like the person that they've said. And I always find it interesting too, because there's been specific incidents that I can look back at through my life when a girl or a woman that I've been on a date with has said, you look like this person, and I've looked nothing like this person. And I think when I look back at it, it's just been that this girl has obviously had me at the forefront of her mind, and she's beginning to see me in places that she possibly shouldn't see me just because she's thinking about me. And I think that that is something that we often forget to take into account. We don't really tend to see individual features with people. We just have a specific picture in our mind of what we think somebody looks like. And if that person is somebody that we're thinking about a little bit more, often it's more of a reflection of the way they see you rather than a reflection of who you actually are and what you actually look like. So the third thing that you can expect to hear is some variation of either you are not my type or you are completely my type. So this one will be definitely relevant for all the single guys watching this video. And this is something that I've got personal experience with. And I've actually got a very specific story, which I find really interesting to tell for this point. So I said in my dating as a guy with long hair video, long hair massively polarizes women in terms of what they think of it when it comes to men. Some women love it, others absolutely cannot stand it. And from what I've seen, there doesn't really tend to be too much of a midway point. It tends to be one way or the other. And I can remember a specific time. So we're going back to last January, so beginning of January 2020. I'm at work and I'm doing my office day job, and I could see that there's a group of 3 women that I work with having a conversation. As I walk past that group, I can just hear that they're probably most likely discussing me, but not necessarily discussing me. But whatever reason, they don't want me to hear their conversation. But out of the corner of my ear, I can literally just hear them saying, I cannot think of anything worse than dating a guy with long hair. So I hear that, and at this point, I'm not really particularly experienced when it comes to dating with long hair. So I start to think, okay, maybe this long hair business isn't necessarily going to land that well. Maybe if I want to be more successful with women, I need to cut my hair. So don't really think too much about it. 2 days later, I'm at a personal development course up in London, not really thinking too much, just going about my day. And a woman comes up to me, literally shaking with nerves. And she just starts a conversation off in a really anxious, but also in a way where I can tell that she needs to say something. And she just comes straight out with it. She just says, are you single? And I'm like, yep, I'm single. And she's like, because I would love to go for a drink with you. So I'm like, okay, cool, sure. And we're texting and we're WhatsApping a little bit later that night. And I just ask her, I just say, so what was it that made you actually come up and start a conversation? Because being honest, that's not really the norm for a woman to do. And she just says plain and simple, I love men with long hair, I love men with facial hair, and you are exactly my type. And I think this is a really interesting story. Firstly, because both of those 2 specific incidents happened in the same week when I looked exactly the same, there was nothing different about me. But also secondly, just because it really just shows just how polarizing it can be. And I think that this is something that you'll really have to get used to if you are a single guy with long hair. Some women will absolutely love it. They'll want to run their hands through your hair. Other women won't want to be anywhere near you because they have their own misconceptions and their own misgivings around dating a man with long hair. But as we said with a lot of these points previously, and as we've said on a lot of our content, it's about how you yourself feel, and it's about how attractive you yourself feel too.
And I would agree with you, Alex, that when you have long hair or short hair and you think that there is a type associated with that style you've chosen, you can almost paralyze yourself into thinking, I've made the wrong choice for myself. I'm married, so this no longer really applies to me. But when I was single and had short hair, I would see girls who are dating guys with long hair, or I'd see a guy with long hair and think, I need to grow my hair out like that. But then as my hair got longer, I would notice that certain girls that I thought were paying attention to me or giving me any attention were no longer looking at all my way, and started wondering, is long hair not their type? Do I need to cut this? And looking back on those situations, I realized that I let the idea of types for one woman or another really shape my decisions when it should have never been something I had to worry about in the first place. Because you're gonna hear you're my type or you're not my type for every single thing you can think of when it comes to who you are as a person. And I've learned that that's okay. And the decision for hair, as we're talking about, should be mine and mine alone, and not based on the fact that I'm either one person's type or not their type.
The fourth thing that you can expect to hear when you're growing out your hair is something along the lines of, you look gay, you look like a girl, or you look feminine. It genuinely makes me a little bit sad that I'm having to discuss this, and it genuinely makes me a little bit sad that we're having to go back to such a primitive way of thinking. But I think it's something that you may hear at least once during your hair growth journey, and I think it's something that you may hear even when you're a man with long hair as well. I also think it's really interesting. I get a lot of comments on my YouTube videos from guys that say things like, I can't grow a full beard. Will long hair still suit me? Or will I look like a girl? Or I can't grow a proper facial hair. Should I still grow my hair long, or will I look too feminine? So I think it is definitely something that a lot of men are worrying about when they think about growing their hair. And I think it is a very understandable worry for men to have. Not because I agree with it, but just because I think that it is almost something that we are intrinsically told to think. Long hair is for women. Men have short hair, women have long hair, and anything that's not the perceived social norm has something wrong with it. And I'm going to tell another specific story which I think really perfectly illustrates that. This time we're going back to Christmas 2018, and this is where I'm fairly early in my hair growth journey. And this is where my hair is getting that Jon Snow kind of wave. And actually at that time too, I still had some facial hair as well. I'm walking out of the office from work and I'm making my way home. I walk past a guy. I'm 28 at the time and he's maybe 2 or 3 years older than me. So we're talking early 30s, maybe mid 30s at a push, but predominantly somewhere in early 30s. As I'm walking past him, he's giving me a slightly strange look and I think, okay, that's a little bit unsettling, but nothing to worry about. As I get maybe 2 or 3 feet past him, he turns around, he looks at me and he goes, "Faggot," and then carries on walking. What I find really, really interesting from that story is not that I was bothered, because truth be told, I wasn't. This is something that you'll really realize when you're growing your hair. What people say about you is much more of a reflection of their reality than it actually is a reflection of what's going on. But I just find it really, really interesting that for some people, they are challenged by something that is not normal. For some people, they are challenged by something that they can't specifically relate to. And I think that story perfectly illustrates those points. He didn't understand why I looked the way I looked, and he didn't understand why I wanted to look the way that I wanted to look. And rather than try and understand it in his head when he was walking past me possibly, or rather than just thinking, okay, each to their own, it doesn't bother me, he felt compelled to throw an insult and he felt compelled to make his own judgment. And like I've said, it doesn't matter. If you hear it, it doesn't matter. It is a reflection of the way someone else sees what's going on, and not a reflection of what is actually going on.
I would also agree with Alex that in my own personal life, any experience I've had where someone has made a comment about long hair being feminine or looking like a girl, even if it wasn't directly at me, but was in a conversation that I was involved in, that person usually had something in their own life that caused them to view certain things or certain attributes on a man as feminine and or gay. So like Alex said, just because you hear those things, it doesn't mean that is what you are. When someone says something like that about you, it more directly reflects who they are as a person than who you are. And the fifth and final thing that you will hear when growing out your hair or when you have long hair is that you look like a vegan, or you look like you're in a metal band or some type of rock band. So me personally being a vegan, this one hits close to home, because I'll have to agree, when I had short hair and I was a vegan, and even before I was a vegan, I always thought that vegans were these people with like tambourines and these little drums that they'd hit and like long hair, and they didn't really care about anything but like Mother Earth and saving the animals. And then once I became a vegan and kind of became the stereotype you want to call it of what a vegan is, I realized that impression of what I thought actually has nothing to do with being vegan or being in a rock band or anything like that. And so for me, it is somewhat ironic that I do now fit into one of those stereotypes of what I used to think when it comes to being vegan. But when you have long hair or you're growing out your hair, expect to hear it quite often that you look like you may be vegan even if you're not, or that you're really into like a metal band, or that you're into a rock band, or you're part of it, you must be a guitarist or something like that. And maybe you don't listen to rock at all, maybe you're into classical, but expect to hear it when you're growing your hair out.
I think, to be honest, when you think about it, anything where you stand out and anything where you look a little bit different, you go straight into the territory of being branded a stereotype or being labelled as something that people may think that you represent. One that I've had a couple of times as well was that I look like I do yoga. And I even had this so much that back when I used to use dating apps, I had a woman message me, and her first message to me was, "Hello, fellow yogi." And there was nothing on my profile that indicated that I did yoga. There was no pictures of me doing anything like that. There wasn't even any picture of me in any capacity that could have been interpreted for that. She had literally just looked at my style, looked at my hair, looked at the fact that I've got my nose pierced, and just decided that that is what I must do. And she also asked after that if I meditated as well. So again, making another stereotype based on the way that she thought I would be, based on the way that I looked. I think whenever you get these stereotypes, it's important to remember that no matter the way that you look, no matter the way that you are, people will get them thrown at you. And I can remember when I had short hair and I was a little bit bigger than I am now, people used to tell me that I looked like a meathead. And people used to ask whether I was a meathead and my life was just about the gym. So wherever you are, however long your hair is, however short your hair is, people will throw stereotypes at you and people will tell you what their interpretation of your look is. It's fine. You just have to remember, again, as we've said previously, it's their reality. It's not a reality of what is going on at all. So with everything being said and everything we've discussed, thank you so much for watching this video. It is much appreciated as always. I'll link Josh's channel below, so head over to his channel, watch a couple of his videos, give him a subscribe, give him a couple of likes as well, because I know his work is going really, really well. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.